500,000 years before the dawn of our own time, a being awakens by a dying fire. It rises, not on 4 limbs, but on 2. A stone axe is in its grasp. A spear is its intent. This is the world of Homo erectus, a creature caught in the long twilight between ape and man. Its brain, at 900 cubic centimeters, is a marvel. 2/3 the size of our own, yet a universe away from the animal kingdom it has begun to transcend. This mind can remember yesterday. It can plan a few hours into the future. It can envision the sharp point of a spear before the stone is struck. But it cannot count beyond 3. It cannot conceive of a god or paint a story on a cave wall. There is no art here, no philosophy. There is only the razor's edge of survival. This being is not an individual in our sense. There is no name, only guttural signals for danger, come, flee. The self is not a person, but a fragment of the pack. For 1,000,000 years, these near-humans were the dominant force on this planet. They had walked 90% of the evolutionary road to humanity, only to find themselves stranded on a plateau, a dead-end branch of our family tree. And at the heart of their stalled existence lies a profound and terrible paradox. The elder of the group, a male of 30 years, a great age in this brutal epoch, opens his eyes. His first thought is of the fire. The embers glow weakly, on the verge of vanishing. He knows he must add wood, or the flame will die. And for his people, the death of the flame is the death of everything. 800,000 years ago, they had learned to master fire, becoming the only creatures on Earth to control this elemental force. It was a revolution. It allowed them to cook meat, unlocking vital nutrients that fueled their growing brains. It kept them warm against the chilling nights of the Javan highlands. It held the great predators, the leopards and the tigers, at bay in a circle of light. But they could not create it. They could not strike a spark from flint, nor coax a flame from the friction of wood. They were keepers of a sacred gift, not its makers. The fire that warms this small clan of 20 was born 3 years prior, when a bolt of lightning shattered a dry tree by the river. They had scrambled, snatching burning branches, carrying the precious embers back to their camp. Ever since, it has been maintained without pause. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, someone is awake, tending the coals, feeding the flame, guarding it as the clan's most vital possession. If it goes out, they are lost. They must wait for the sky to grant them another miracle, a wait that could last a month, a year, or a decade. To lose the fire is to be cast back into the cold, to eat raw, decaying flesh teeming with parasites, to shiver through nights where the temperature plummets to 15 degrees. It is to once again become prey, cowering in the darkness from shapes that hunt by stealth and silence. Their entire world, their very claim to a future, rests upon these few fading coals. They were almost human, yet they lived entirely at the mercy of a chance spark from heaven. The art of striking sparks from stone will belong to their distant descendants, a discovery perhaps 100,000 years in the future. For now, fire is not a creation, but a captive, a celestial gift fallen from the sky in a flash of lightning, and it must be guarded as one would guard their own life. The first hunter rises. A chorus of cracking joints accompanies his ascent. He is 30 years old, a great elder, standing at the precipice of deep old age. In this world, the average life is a mere 25 years. To see 40 is to have cheated fate itself. A dull ache radiates from his spine, a phantom memory of yesterday's hunt, a punishing 5-kilometer pursuit of an antelope. He approaches the glowing heart of the camp. The embers pulse with a faint residual warmth. He lays a tribute of dry branches upon them, leans in, and breathes. Life answers life. A flame blossoms in the darkness, and as it grows, so too does the camp stir. Others begin to wake, stretching, scratching, their naked bodies emerging from the shadows. They are a people carved by necessity. The men stand around 1 meter and 67 centimeters, the women closer to 1 meter 50. Their bodies are lean, sinewy, honed by scarcity and constant movement, with not an ounce of fat to spare. Their faces are portraits of an archaic time. A sloping forehead recedes from a heavy brow, or full jaw that thrusts forward. But the eyes are undeniably human. They hold a depth, a knowing intelligence that looks out from behind that ancient mask. The lead hunter's gaze sweeps across his small clan, an unspoken census in the flickering light. His eyes land on a young man lying near the fire, his leg grotesquely swollen. A fall into a ravine during the hunt has left him with a fractured bone. He moans softly, unable to walk, a dead weight in a world that demands mobility. In a world governed by brutal efficiency, he is a liability. Yet, he is not cast out. The clan will not abandon him. They will feed him, protect him, and wait for the bone to mend. This is not sentiment. It is strategy. The archaeological record confirms it, whispering stories from the bones of hominids with healed, crippling fractures. Injuries that could only have been survived if a community had provided care for weeks, even months. A short distance away sits another figure, a man of perhaps 45 years. His mouth is a hollow cavern. His teeth are long gone. He cannot chew, cannot process the tough meat that sustains the others. He should be the first to starve, but he does not. The clan provides for him, offering soft foods, perhaps even meat pre-chewed, by a man is not in his jaw, but in the landscape of memory held within his mind. He knows the secret paths of the game. He knows which plants give life and which bring death. He knows the soul of the stone, how to strike it to create the perfect axe. In this existence, experience is a currency far more valuable than teeth. Toward the forest. A single, decisive toward the forest. A single, decisive movement. The meaning needs no language. The meat from yesterday is gone, the bones picked clean. The hunt begins again. The clan is a ravenous organism, demanding 30 kilograms of meat a day, supplemented by whatever roots and fruits can be gathered. 5 men rise, taking up their spears. They are brutally simple weapons, wooden poles, 2 meters in length, their tips sharpened and hardened in the embers of the fire. The technology of hafting stone points is an innovation for a future age. But even a sharpened stick is a deadly instrument in a skilled hand. With the spear, each hunter carries a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering, the hand axe. Palm-sized, impossibly sharp, it is the emblem of the Acheulean culture, a tradition stretching back 1.5 million years. This is no crude chopper. It is a bifacial tool, symmetrical, beautiful, and lethally functional. To see this tool is to see the mind that conceived it. 3 days ago, the lead hunter crafted his own. He selected a flint cobble, turning it over and over, reading its internal structure, searching for its potential. Then, with a hammerstone, he began to strike. Each blow was precise, deliberate, peeling away flakes to reveal the form hidden within the stone. An hour of focused work produced a perfect, symmetrical blade with 2 razor-sharp cutting edges. This is not accident. This is architecture. It requires a brain capable of holding a finished concept in the imagination and executing a series of complex steps to bring it into reality. The birth of foresight. The hunters turn and disappear into the trees. The women remain, a division of labor already ancient. They walk into a world that offers no guarantees, a world of predators and prey. They are armed not only with fire-hardened wood and sharpened stone, but with a bond forged in the face of extinction. They carry the future, not in their hands, but in their care for one another. The division is ancient, etched into the very rhythm of their days. For the men, survival is written in blood and sinew, a relentless pursuit of flesh. For the women, it is a language of roots, berries, and the unwavering care of the next generation. The children are a whirlwind of raw life, shrieking, tumbling, and testing their strength against one another. For 7 long years, they are a drain on the clan's precious resources, mouths to feed with little to offer in return. Then, the change begins. They learn to haul firewood, their small hands growing calloused. They watch, they imitate, and they begin to shape stone and wood into the tools that define their existence. Today, the hunt is on. A small band moves along a game trail, a silent procession of ghosts in the dappled light. For an hour, not a word is spoken. Communication is a silent ballet of hand signals, a flick of the wrist, a pointed finger, a complex language understood by all. Their world is rendered in 3 dimensions by binocular vision, a predator's gift. A flicker of movement, a subtle break in the pattern of the landscape is perceptible from 100 meters away. Their sense of smell, while no match for a wolf's, is exquisitely tuned to the scent of blood and decay. Their hearing is a finely calibrated instrument, capable of discerning the heavy tread of a large beast through the forest floor from 20 meters out. They emerge into a sun-drenched clearing. There, rooting in the soft earth, is the prize, a sounder of 5 wild boars. Each is a mountain of muscle and fat, weighing close to 150 kilograms. They are powerful, yet blissfully unaware. They are the perfect quarry. The lead hunter, a man of experience rather than rank, freezes. With slow, deliberate gestures, he lays out the plan. It is a strategy as old as their people, a masterpiece of collaborative thought. 2 hunters will flank left, 2 right. He will remain at the center, the anvil to their hammer. The tactic is simple, brutal, and effective. Encircle, create chaos, and drive the panicked animals toward the waiting spears. This is a feat of abstract planning and communication far beyond the reach of any other primate. It is the work of a mind that can see the future. The hunters melt into the undergrowth, each man a shadow moving toward his designated position. They wait, hearts pounding in the shared silence, until a single sharp bark from the leader shatters the peace. 2 hunters move with practiced speed. 2 hunters move with practiced speed, cutting off the primary escape route, turning the herd back toward the center of the clearing. But one sow, massive and enraged, breaks from the pack. It lowers its head, tusks glinting, and charges directly at the lead hunter, its mark. The sharpened stone point, its mark. The sharpened stone point punches through thick hide, just behind the shoulder blade, sinking deep between the ribs. The beast lets out a piercing squeal. Its charge falters, its legs buckle. It crashes to the earth, convulsing in the grass. The hunter is on it in an instant, his stone axe raised. A swift, heavy blow lands on the skull. The crack of bone is sharp and final. The sow is still. The rest of the herd has vanished back into the forest. The hunt is a success. 150 kilograms of meat and fat, enough to feed the clan for 5 days. 6 of them strain to lift the carcass, slinging it onto a pair of thick poles. The journey back to the camp is arduous, a shuffling, grunting trek under the immense weight of their prize. They are met with joyous cries. The whole clan gathers around the fire pit as the hunters drop their heavy burden. The division of the kill begins, a ritual that reaffirms the clan's social structure. The chieftain receives the choicest cut, the fatty brisket. The rest is distributed by seniority and standing. The strong eat well. The lead hunter, not a chief but a man of great respect, is awarded a generous portion from the hind leg. Women with razor-sharp flint knives descend upon the carcass. They work with an efficiency born of generations of practice, peeling back the tough hide, removing the viscera, and carving the meat into manageable pieces. Skewers are fashioned from green branches, and soon, the first cuts are sizzling over the glowing embers. Fat drips and hisses, releasing a plume of smoke so rich and savory it is almost intoxicating. For the lead hunter, who has consumed nothing but water since the previous morning, the smell is an agony of anticipation. His stomach clenches, and saliva floods his mouth. After 20 within, a piece is handed to him. And in this simple act, the most profound revolution in the history of life on Earth is reenacted. He takes the searingly hot chunk of flesh, blows on it to cool it, and takes a bite. The taste is overwhelming. The texture, impossibly tender. The rich fat coats his tongue. Raw meat is a battle, tough, sinewy, and often riddled with parasites. It is a chore to chew and a strain to digest. But this is different. This is a miracle. The application of fire to food is not merely culinary. It is an evolutionary accelerant. The flames have neutralized the hidden dangers and broken down the complex proteins, pre-digesting the meal before it is ever eaten. The immense metabolic energy once squandered on a difficult digestion is now liberated, freed to fuel the most expensive organ the world has ever known, the human brain. Every sizzling drop of fat, every easily absorbed calorie, is a deposit in the bank account of cognition. The spark that would one day illuminate a planet was first kindled not in a mind, but over a fire, in the promise of a cooked meal. A jaw built for imgical furnace, demanding a colossal share of the body's energy simply to process the tough, raw fare of the wild. This was the blueprint for our ancient ancestors. Then, a turning point. A flicker of orange against the encroaching dark. Fire. And with it, the cooked meal. Suddenly, food that was once a challenge became soft, yielding. The process of digestion, once an arduous internal battle, was externalized into the flames. Nutrients were unlocked with an ease never before known. The gut, no longer needing to be so long and robust, could begin its slow, evolutionary retreat. The vast reserves of energy it once consumed were now liberated, rerouted to a new, hungry frontier. The burgeoning brain. It was a profound biological negotiation. The jaw began to shrink, the teeth to weaken, the intestines to shorten. In their place, the cranium expanded. This was the singular advantage seized by a species known as Homo erectus. Over the course of 200,000 years, their brain capacity swelled, growing from 800 to 1,200 cubic centimeters. This mastery of fire offered more than just an energetic surplus. It offered a future to those who had lost their own. Cooked, softened food meant that the elderly, the toothless, could survive. And these elders were not merely burdens. They were living libraries. They were the vessels of experience, the keepers of memory. They could teach the young where to find water in a drought, how to track an elusive prey, which plants healed and which ones killed. Knowledge, for the first time, could accumulate beyond a single generation. Culture had found its seedbed. Around the fire, the clan devours the latest kill. The air is thick with the sounds of tearing flesh and low growls. Hierarchy is absolute, written in muscle and intimidation. The strongest eat first, ripping the choicest cuts from the carcass, jealously guarding their prize. A leader, his dominance undisputed, gnaws on a bone, methodically cracking it for the marrow within. Yet, in this brutal tableau, a flicker of something new. A woman patiently chews a piece of roasted meat, transforming it into a soft paste. She then carefully feeds this life-sustaining mush to an old man, his gums bare, his hunting days long past. It is an act of profound pragmatism, preserving the clan's wisdom. Nearby, children squabble over the last sinewy scraps, their small battles a rehearsal for the life that awaits them. Finally, bellies are full. A deep animal contentment settles over the group. Now, there is time for rest. The lead hunter sits apart, staring into the hypnotic dance of the flames. He pries a piece of gristle from his teeth with a wood splinter. His mind, that newly enlarged brain, is at work. But its currents run in simple, concrete channels. Where will the herds move tomorrow? How can the splintered spearhead be repaired? When will the rains return? There is no room here for philosophy, for art, for questions of the cosmos. The capacity for abstract thought, the world of symbols and gods, lies dormant, waiting another 300,000 years for the arrival of Homo sapiens. The leader grunts, gesturing with his chin toward a growing pile of bones. A primal form of sanitation is taking hold. The remains of the meal are gathered and tossed into a designated pit, away from the sleeping area. It is a simple, instinctual calculation. Rotting offal attracts scavengers and disease. It stinks. It brings danger. By the same logic, the dead are also removed. They are buried not with ritual or prayer, but with the stark understanding that a decaying corpse is a threat, a source of infection that could poison the entire clan. As the sun bleeds across the horizon, the air grows cold. The community draws closer to the fire, their shared hearth. The day's labor is not yet done. Some sharpen flint, chipping away to create new hand axes. Others bind stone points to wooden shafts. Women weave crude baskets from pliable branches. The toothless old man, the one fed by hand, now repays his debt. He uses gestures, his hands shaping the hills and rivers in the firelight, showing the younger hunters the secret paths of the deer. They watch, their eyes wide, memorizing every motion. This is the transfer of knowledge in a world without writing. This is the oral tradition, the bedrock of all cultures to come. Darkness falls completely. The clan settles for the night, curling up on the bare earth in the warm circle of the fire. But sleep is not absolute. One remains awake, a sentinel. His duty is to feed the flames and to listen. To listen for the snap of a twig, the low growl that signals the approach of the night's terrors. Leopards, hyenas, cave bears, they are always close. The fire is a deterrent, but not a guarantee of safety. 2 years ago, a leopard, a shadow moving with liquid speed, had snatched a child from the very edge of the circle. It was over in a heartbeat. A flash of teeth, a muffled cry, and then only the suffocating silence of the dark. Since that night, they keep the watch in pairs. The lead hunter drifts into a deep, dreamless sleep, his head resting on his arm. Tomorrow will be the same as today. There will be the hunt, the meal, the constant, grinding struggle for survival. There are no long-term plans, no grand ambitions. They live for the now, for the next sunrise, perhaps for the next week. A month from now is a future as distant and unknowable as the stars above. For 1 million years, this was their existence. From 1.5 million to 400,000 years ago, Homo erectus were the undisputed masters of the planet. They walked out of Africa and conquered Eurasia, reaching the shores of Indonesia, the plains of China, the forests of Europe. They adapted, they survived, they thrived. Yet for all their success, for all their vast dominion across time and space, they left behind no art, no temples, no verse. Their legacy is etched not in monuments, but in the earth itself. In countless stone axes, in the scattered gnawed bones of their prey, and in the faint, cold charcoal of a million ancient fires. They were the silent architects of the mind, the long and patient prologue to the human story. Upon the ancient stage of Africa, some 200,000 years ago, a new actor appeared. Evolution, in its relentless, unscripted drama, had taken its next step. This was Homo sapiens, the wise man, our own species. Within its skull rested a brain of 1,400 cubic centimeters, a full 500 more than the long-reigning hominins, the erectus. But the difference was not merely one of volume. It was a revolution in consciousness. This new mind was capable of a language of unprecedented complexity, of abstract thought that could grasp concepts of past and future, of planning not for the next hunt, but for the next season. It was a mind that conceived of art, that performed rituals, that looked at the stars and felt the stirring of belief. These newcomers did all the same things their predecessors had done for 1,000,000 years. They hunted, they gathered, they controlled fire. But they did it all better, faster, with a terrifying intelligence. As Homo sapiens began their great migration out of the African cradle, they inevitably met the elder inhabitants of the planet. They encountered the scattered tribes of Homo erectus. The confrontation was not always a war, though violence surely played its part. More often, it was a silent, grinding contest for resources. On one territory, now lived two species. One was simply smarter. It was the newcomer who claimed the best hunting grounds, the most sheltered caves. Their tools were more refined, their strategies more coordinated. They hunted with greater efficiency, and their populations grew faster. For the older, slower species, the world began to shrink. The game became scarcer, the winters harsher. The slow march of natural selection was at work, in its most brutal and impersonal form. The less adapted starved, sickened, and faded away. The last of the pithecanthropes, the upright ape men, survived until perhaps 100,000 years ago. Some isolated pockets may have clung to existence until as recently as 50,000 years before our time. On the islands of what is now Indonesia, island populations held on the longest, their world a final, lonely refuge, insulated from the sapiens' tide by the unforgiving sea. But the sea was not a permanent barrier. When our ancestors finally developed the means to cross it, the fate of the last erectus was sealed. Within a few thousand years, they were gone. An entire branch of the human story, a journey more than 1,000,000 years long, had reached a dead end. The branch was not merely pruned, it was severed. And yet, their story did not end entirely. Genetic science has uncovered the whispers of ghosts. In the DNA of some modern Asian populations, scientists have found faint traces, the genetic signatures of these archaic peoples. Just as they did with the Neanderthals in Europe, our ancestors interbred with the erectus they met in Asia. The contribution is minuscule, mere fractions of a percent, but it is there, a genetic echo across the millennia. We are not their direct descendants, but a parallel lineage. Yet, a drop of their ancient blood flows within some of us still. The first great hunter, the master of fire, was not our direct great-grandfather. He was a distant cousin, whose entire community vanished without a trace. Somewhere else, in the vast laboratory of Africa, another branch of the erectus line evolved, giving rise to an intermediate species, Homo heidelbergensis. From this common ancestor, two new paths diverged. One led to the Neanderthals of Europe. The other, in Africa, led to us. It forces the ultimate question. What is it that makes a human truly human? The first hunter was close, so very close, but did not make the final leap. Upright posture, a large brain, the mastery of tools and fire. the beginnings of language, caring for the weak, passing knowledge to the young. All these pillars of humanity were in place, but in a primitive form. The final, crucial spark was missing. The capacity for abstract thought, for symbolism. The need to carve a figure on a piece of bone, to paint an animal on a cave wall, to believe in a world beyond the one seen by the eyes. That step was taken by Homo sapiens. It was the final brushstroke that transformed a clever, upright ape into a sapient being. But the foundation was laid by erectus. They were the pioneers. They were the first to tame the flame, the first to hunt in coordinated groups, the first to tend to their wounded, the first to ensure that the wisdom of one generation was not lost to the next. Without them, there would be no us. They walked 90% of the path to humanity. Then, for reasons we may never fully know, they stalled, unable to take the final step. They vanished into time, and their smarter, more adaptable relatives crossed the finish line, becoming the people who now walk the earth. Imagine a day, 500,000 years ago. The first hunter awakens in the pre-dawn chill, tending the precious embers of the fire. He goes to the hunt, fells a wild boar, and drags the carcass back to his camp. He cooks the meat, shares it with his small band, and sleeps. There is no heroic saga, only the stark calculus of survival. But that simple cycle, repeated for 1,000,000 years, was the engine of our becoming. It was the crucible that forged community, communication, technology, and culture. Everything we are of evolution. He was not aware that his daily struggle for survival was laying the path for a world he could never imagine, and for a mind that would one day look back across the abyss of time and wonder at his existence. His world was governed by two primal directives: to eat and to not be eaten. Yet from this simple, brutal calculus, a legacy was forged. For it was the cumulative struggle of millions of these unnamed beings, Homo erectus, that created the very bedrock upon which our own world is built. Our cities of steel and glass, the intricate dance of science, the soaring ambition of art and spaceflight, all of this rests upon a foundation laid by creatures who could scarcely count beyond 3. This was not the brutish ape of caricature, nor the noble savage of fiction. It was something far more complex. A clever primate trapped between two worlds, on the very precipice of humanity, yet forever one crucial step short of the threshold. To live a single day in their time was to know the visceral terror of confronting a wild boar with little more than fire-hardened wood and stone. It was the taste of fire-seared meat, unadorned by salt or spice, the cold earth for a bed, the unending vigil of tending a precious, captured flame, a beacon against a darkness that teemed with predators. They persevered for nearly 2,000,000 years, a chain of generations defined by hardship and firelight. They laid the first stones of the world we now inhabit. And in the silent echo of their struggle, a single profound question remains. What have we, their inheritors, truly built upon the world they won for us?